Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Oracle Reiki Spiritual Healer. And today we are in the story of Yusuf. And we talk about the wolf spirit. And I'm going to tell you a story, after we talk about this wolf spirit, that we understand that when there are too many men, when men group together, they will contrive lies, as in the story of Joseph, where his brothers, made up a tale, and this wolf had devoured Joseph, So we knew that they were telling lies, and in many cases in life, you will have where these men will consistently tell lies and make up stories when, too many of them come together without the understanding of God, of what God has in store for a person, that God has his hand up on certain individuals, not just only men, but also women. So now we're understanding that Joseph's brethren, they were, consumed by this wolf spirit. And this is what we are cleansing. This is what we are cleansing for this full moon. This is a wolf moon. We're cleansing those lies, those devouring lies that have consumed a lot of men and women, and they have been taken advantage of by these types of men that are also on the internet, that, want to harm women, little children, girls, who have this devouring spirit of harming anyone that's vulnerable, especially the elderly. In the case of Joseph as well, with Jacob as the father, becoming under attack by his own sons. So I want to tell you a story from when I was younger, from when I was, 19, turning 20. And, we will have this understanding of why I also had to remove myself from my first marriage. And we have this understanding of why I have always, I have always had a respect for my father. I've always tried to take care of him, especially after my mother's passing. And, we have this understanding of why I would always go back home to take care of my father. Even though we have this understanding that my father is from the old school, and, he has his perception, he has his ways. We do not take the ways away from the man. We make sure that he's able to keep his ways, but we bring in a correction as needed, that has not been given before. The correction also was given also at the end of Joseph's story, where you have to give this correction, the truth. And, in order to, stop this devouring spirit, in order to stop this wolf spirit, the truth is a cleanser for this wolf spirit. So we are in that time right now where we're having a lot of people cleanse this negative energy that has been given by the entity, that has been given by the colonizer, to lie and, deceive. It's a major deception upon the earth, that, a lot of men are trying to lead with the behavior of the ancients. So, let's get into this story, of when I was younger. So, during the time that my first husband and I had gotten married, and I had taken him home to meet my mother and my father, and again, like I say, my father he didn't have too much to say. Because first of all, I had been given an understanding of a good judge of character. Okay. But even still, with a person that is older than you, they can know more than you. They can, hide red flags. So my mother was the one to tell, my first husband, well, you don't know high oracle. Okay. So he took that as a means to try to be deceptive. He took that as a means to try to be abusive and take over finances that did not belong to him, that he could not possess on his own, and I was very appreciative of him, by providing, the home in the space where we were, the apartment in his name, and he provided for me in that way. And we have to be very honest and thank God for, under all conditions. Okay. So when my father, we had been living in this neighborhood a while, and my father had been with my mother all of my life. And so we're in this neighborhood. It's called the Lakewood Community, Lakewood Amphitheater, Lakewood, Heights in Atlanta. So, it's not a very good neighborhood. It was pretty terrible back in the day. So my father was a security guard, and my father was an armed security guard. And so this is what let me know that I had to move away from my husband. I had gotten to know my husband, some of his friends in that area, and how things pretty much work. The things that they were inclined in, they would have their block parties, they would have a good time. They had bars and everything else going on in this area. So, we would get together, when I came and added in what I had to add in, it was something wholesome and good. I added in the internet because that's what we had in my house. We had video games. We've always had like the Ataris and things of that nature, and we've had video games. So me and my brother, we used to play the video games, Super Mario Brothers, all of these things. And, I like the Mortal Kombat. So that's what, I added to this place that they called the Village, back at that time. So my father, again, he was an armed security guard, and he would walk through the hood and, go home, go to my mom's house. And I lived down the street from my mom. So the first thing that I understood was, my husband's auntie and his cousin, which his cousin later on became, my assistant for 20 years. They ran to the door and they was like, it's this man that come through here all the time, and he's on, a bike or some skates or whoop-de-whoop. And, I was like, what man is they talking about? Because in my mind, that could only sound like my father. Because my father always stayed in shape. Like I say, he was a military vet, so he always stayed in shape. So when he was coming up the street, in some inline skates, and my father was, he was doing it big back then. He would skate backwards. And I thought it was very hilarious that when I saw him, I was like, oh, that's my father. And it was like, oh my goodness. We didn't know that was, your mother's husband. And they was like, well, he is fine, and I was like, I started laughing. So needless to say, a week goes by or 2 weeks go by, and I go to my mother's house, and then, I think my husband and I, we had got into an argument about something that I did not want to, live there anymore where he was. And, with his friends or whatever. And, I think we decided to get our own place. So, I went home to stay with my mother up the street for a little while. And so he came and got me from up there. And as we're walking down from, my mother's house into, Lakewood, where we were staying at, I could see a group of people surrounding my father. And I was like, wow, all those people, who are all those people that is surrounding my father? He was like, oh, those people who think that he is the police, and they're going to jump on him and beat him up. So my father was standing in the middle of this crowd of all of my ex-husband's friends that he knew from the block. And it wasn't until I went into this crowd, I stood in the middle of this crowd with my father. And I knew that my father would unalive some of them. And I told them, this ain't what you want. If he pulled this gun, he's going to unalive some of you. So you can decide. You can decide. He's a military vet. He's going to unalive some of you. And we can automatically see that he's not a police. He's a security guard. Anybody can see that. My husband never said a word while I'm standing in the middle of this crowd with all of the people that he knew from the block and from this area, that he knew, all of the addicts that were going to try and attack my father. I made up my mind then that it was time for me to go, that he would allow these people to attack me, and he knew who they were. He would allow them to attack my father, and he knew who he was. So God always makes a way for us to cleanse this type of negative spirit. He makes a way out for the chosen one, and he makes a way to cleanse this type of negative energy with truth. And I had to work easy. I had to be with this husband for 7 years until God made a way for me to have the money and the provisions to get away from this person. And I do not dislike this person. I do not hate him. I have been hoping and praying for him for the best, but his arrogance and pride. There is an arrogance and pride that comes with the wolf spirit, that they're not going to tell the truth, that they're not going to accept the truth until there's no other way out for them, until everything has been stripped away from them and you can see who they are and what they have been up to, just as the brethren of Joseph. So when I seen all of these brethren of my husband, my ex-husband, and my father was in the middle, I have always had that type of spirit. Let me go over here and help my father. Let them know that this is my father. So he couldn't possibly be a police officer or undercover, or anything of that nature. So that we can have an understanding that he comes through here every single day. He has been coming through here every single day. And this is how I was able to, stop the attack upon my father without, the help of my ex-husband. And when you have these people who are, with that wolf spirit, who would rather, run with gangs, who would attack you in a gang, but cannot attack on their own because they don't carry any power on their own, then there is going to be a problem. There is going to be a reckoning, and this is what has happened in the course of my life. Now that I have been cleansing that wolf spirit and helping a lot of you to cleanse that wolf spirit, you guys are able to see that there are certain people out here who know right from wrong and will allow, the most vulnerable among us to be attacked. The women who will say things on the internet to cause the attack of, young women, the people who are in leadership, want to be predators, are predators, and we are seeing it for what it is. That young women, all women, have to really, make sure that they are covered, that they are protecting themselves, and that they let other women know why they need to protect themselves from these types of wolf spirits, these types of people who are upset because they do not embody the spirit of the chosen one. and they do not have the gifts, and so therefore they will try to take them with the wolf spirit, and they will definitely try to unalive you or harm you when they have decided that they are unable to have these gifts, embody these gifts, or control you. So I hope you received this message. Please like, share, and subscribe to me. Read the book of Joseph in the Holy Quran and in the Holy Bible. Book your one-on-one sessions with me. You can reach out to me so that we can cleanse this wolf spirit out of your life. It goes beyond just our full moon cleanse. This has been up on the earth for a very long time. And we want to cleanse that animal spirit out of your family, out of your relationship, out of your life for good. So, reach out to me, book your life coaching sessions, book your video chat sessions, book your consultations, so I can acclimate a gift to you and your situation. Like, share, and subscribe to me. Donate to me. Leave a comment for me. I'm High Oracle, Reiki Spiritual Healer. Assalamu alaikum.